Every single song you have ever listened to is made up of exactly and only 12 notes. From Beethoven to 50 Cent to Taylor Swift, they all use the same exact 12 notes. And by the end of this video, you will know where these 12 notes come from, why music sounds the way it does, and how music actually works. First of all, what even is a note? A note is just air that's moving. And whenever you pluck a guitar string, sing a note, or hear music coming from a speaker, they all have one thing in common, and that is that something is vibrating. This vibration causes air molecules to be pushed into each other, which creates a domino ripple effect that looks like a wave. These waves of air molecules eventually hit your ear, and your brain detects it as sound. The reason some sounds are higher or lower than others depends on how many waves hit your ear every second. The more waves, the higher the sound, and the lower amount of waves, the lower the sound is. The height or the amplitude of the waves determines the loudness, and the amount of waves in a second is also called the frequency, which is measured in hertz. The sound you are hearing right now is 220 hertz. This means that every second there are 220 waves hitting your eardrum. This note, also more commonly known as the note A on piano. If we add another frequency and slowly increase its speed, at first it sounds weird. However, at a certain point, it starts sounding like they belong together. This doesn't just happen randomly. It happens when the second wave is moving exactly twice as fast as the first wave, or a 2-to-1 ratio. It sounds like the same note, just higher. In music, this is called an octave, and it's what bounds the musical scales of all cultures. It's the single biggest common denominator. The reason that your brain thinks that these two notes belong together is because their waves sync up regularly. The sound is predictable, stable, and strong, and your brain loves this because it's simple and easy to understand. Now compare that to a weird ratio like 214 to 213. These two waves hardly ever line up, and your brain has trouble noticing the pattern. It has to use more energy, which is why it sounds dissonant. The word we use in music for when two sounds belong together is consonance. The 2-to-1 ratio is not the only ratio that sounds good. Other simple ratios also sound good. The next simple ratio would be 3-to-2, which is also known as the perfect fifth. Next, 4-to-3, which is the perfect fourth, and 5-to-4, or the major third. Now, the most mind-blowing part of music for me was when I found out that when you hear a sound in real life, like a trumpet, piano, or guitar, and even in cats meowing or bird songs, you are not hearing just one single frequency. You are hearing one main frequency and many other smaller, less noticeable ones. These additional frequencies are called overtones, or harmonics, and they appear everywhere in nature. Here is the mind-blowing part. These overtones are not random. They all follow a specific pattern. From instruments to dolphin noises, they all are simple ratios. They are all multiple of the fundamental frequency, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. This is not a coincidence. The reason they appear so often is because they are stable, strong, and carry energy most efficiently. Harmonics are also the reason that the same note played on guitar and piano sound differently. They play certain harmonics quieter or louder than others, which changes the timbre. Now, before we continue, I have to note something. While the octave is the most universal way we bound musical scales, not all cultures divide the space within that octave into 12 notes. In Arabic music, scales are split into 24 notes, in others 22, and so on. But to understand the music you hear most often, we are going to focus on how the Western world does it. Also, the history of music is one of the most insane rabbit holes in all of human civilization. We're talking thousands of years, every continent, Mesopotamian harps, Indian ragas, Arabian maqam scales, African polyrhythm, genuinely mind-blowing stuff, completely ignoring in this video, so please don't come after me in the comments. To find the 12 notes we use, we go back to the harmonic series we found in sounds that appear in nature. 2,500 years ago, a mathematician named Pythagoras took the second most simple ratio, the perfect fifth, and used it as a ruler. He started at one frequency, then went up in perfect fifth ratios until he reached the octave of the first frequency. This made it end up with 12 different frequencies or notes. Now the problem with this method is that it made some notes sound out of tune. This is because stacking fifths does not mathematically align perfectly with the original frequency. The best version of this was, instead of using just one of the ratios from the Harmonics series, someone decided to use all of them. This method made the music sound heavenly, and it's called just intonation. However, the issue with this is that it sounds good in that original frequency or key. However, if you try to adjust it, it sounds horrible. So each time someone wanted to change keys in a song, they also had to retune their instrument every single time. The solution to all of this, and what we still use today, is what is called 12-tone equal temperament. In this method, we just gave up on trying to sound absolutely perfect, and we took the octave and divided it into 12 equal steps, each called a semitone. This method does not sound as good as just intonation. However, most people don't notice the difference. You don't have to retune your instrument every single time you change the key. Before we talk about scales, there's one more thing to understand: intervals. An interval is just the distance between two notes. Every distance has a name: minor second, minor third, major third, and so on up to the octave. Keep these in mind because they are what makes scales have a different feel. So we have 12 notes. However, a song does not use all 12 notes. It picks just some of them. That is called a scale. All scales have a certain pattern or recipe. The most common scale used in Western music is the major scale, and it goes like this: tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. By the way, the piano layout has a whole history I am not getting into, but watch what happens when I apply that formula starting from C. Those are all the white keys. That's not a coincidence. That same major scale recipe works for all 12 notes. There are also other recipes like tone, semitone, tone, tone, semitone, tone, tone, which has a different feel when being played. Scales explain which notes belong together, but music is rarely just one note at a time. Notes get stacked, and when you stack them, you get a chord. Chords have a formula too. Take a note, skip one, take the next one, skip one, take the next. From C, that gives you C, E, G. Played together, that is the C major chord. But why does it sound the way it does? Remember those intervals? The gaps between C and E is 4 semitones, a major third. And here's the thing: the overtones that naturally occur in any sound already form a major chord. So when you hear a major chord, your brain recognizes it instantly because it matches what sound in nature already sounds like. It is stable, it is at rest. That is a major chord. Now start the same formula from A instead. A, C, E. But this time, the gap between A and C is only 3 semitones. Minor third. That stability is now gone. It is tense and unresolved. That is a minor chord. And yes, it can sound sad, but that is not because minor is sad. It is because your brain hears the tension and reads it as unrest. Like asking whether a horror movie is worse than a feel-good movie, neither is. They just do different things. If you do this from every note in the scale, you get 7 chords automatically. Because the gaps in the scales are uneven, some naturally land on a major third and some on a minor third. 3 stable, 3 tense, and 1 completely unstable one called diminished. Harmony is just how different combinations of these chords sound together. When a song changes from one chord to another, that movement creates direction in the music. Some chords feel stable, like home. These are often chords with simple ratios, like we already talked about, and others unstable and want to move somewhere else, back to home. That movement between chords is what we call harmony. Almost every song you have ever heard is built from just a handful of chord patterns repeated in different ways. For example, one of the most common progressions used in music is the 1-4-5-1 progression, used in all of these songs. We have talked about scales. Melody is just using different combinations of notes from that scale to create a musical phrase. Melodies are not random. To make a nice melody, you need to have tension and resolution. Some notes sound unstable and some sound stable. 99% of melodies start and end with stable notes. The tension in between makes the song interesting, just like a movie. This push and pull gives emotion to the song. All of that is what notes you have to play. Rhythm is when you play them. Every piece of music has a pulse, a steady, repeating beat. And everything in a song is placed relative to that beat. Those beats get grouped together, usually in fours or threes or twos. That group is called a bar. If you change the grouping, it makes the music feel different. In this video, I covered how the 12 notes were chosen, how they form music, and why your brain loves the music you listen to. Obviously, this was a very condensed version. However, it all comes back to everything I talked about in this video. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about how music works, please consider subscribing.